Hi, I'm Heavenly Montgomery, your digital mentor teacher. Welcome to another episode. Today, we'll explore different assessment uses: assessment for learning, assessment of learning, and assessment as learning. We will also talk a little bit about do's and don'ts for proper assessment uses in a school's professional learning community. We will see that you do not use assessments punitively, and we'll see ways that you can use assessment successfully and forge teacher empowerment and teacher agency. That's real important. The objective of this video is to provide an overview of different assessment types and their role in supporting student learning. Some key points that we'll cover are the importance of assessment in education, and we'll give an overview of assessment for learning, assessment of learning, and assessment as learning. This also will include tips to increase teacher agency and to remove the punitive use of assessment. The purpose of assessment for learning is to have a process that is used by teachers to gather feedback on student understanding and adjust instruction according to what students understand. The purpose of this assessment use is to enhance student learning during the instructional process, because we all know that teaching and assessment are integrated and go hand in hand. They shouldn't be something that's separate and stands alone. Some examples of assessment for learning are formative assessments, such as exit tickets and classroom discussions, the copious notes taken by the teacher, or feedback loops. That's the timely changes in instruction that help students learn when they have gaps that needed to be addressed. Constructive feedback to help students improve is a part of feedback loops.
Listen, we talking about practice.
Don't blink.
Students should be treated like athletes that are able to practice and refine their learning until they are able to execute it better and better each day. So when we think about assessment for learning, that is the purpose of that instructional practice. Assessment of learning refers to summative assessments that evaluate student learning at the end of the instructional period. It may be a little morbid, but some people call assessment of learning as the autopsy. We want to give the patient the medicine and the support they need in assessment for learning. We don't want to wait to the assessment of learning to find out that the students needed help. The purpose of assessment of learning is to measure and report on student achievement against established standards. Some examples of assessment of learning are final exams, standardized tests, and end of course projects. We also use grades, report cards, and progress reports to report the end of the student's learning. Now, we use assessment of learning in the classroom to document student progress, help keep parents informed, as well as community stakeholders informed of the status of grade levels in schools. And it helps school administration make choices about student learning. For instance, how is this instructional infrastructure going to change based on what students need? Are we going to change the master schedule and have more periods for help? Are we going to hire a teacher to pull out students and help them with reading instruction? Assessment of learning usually drives change and drives accountability. Assessment as learning involves students in the assessment process. It allows students to monitor and reflect on their own learning. It is the highest form of instructional development for students. It gives them a chance to use their metacognitive skills and help them to become self-regulated learners. Self-assessment examples are students assess their own work using rubrics. Some teachers that are very accomplished even allow their students to make their own rubrics collaboratively with the teacher. Another example is peer assessment. Students provide feedback to each other on assignments. And reflection journals, students reflect on what they have left and to learn and what areas they need for improvement. When you have a successful application of assessment as learning, that encourages students to take ownership of their own learning and develop critical thinking skills. Even though this may not be the case across educational communities in the United States, assessment should not be used to punish or penalize students or teachers. Punitive measures can lead to demotivation, anxiety, teachers leaving the profession, narrowing the focus of test performance rather than meaningful learning. We should be using assessment to drive instruction and drive planning and drive change. And yes, use it for accountability. But we have to make sure that the assessment tools are used to support learning, identify areas of need, and guide instructional decisions. When we do those things properly, there's no need for high accountability because everyone is engaged in the right work. So when we think about positive practices, let's think about using assessment data to celebrate growth and identify areas of support. And we have to make sure that if we're identifying areas of support with teachers, we are providing the learning that they need to help them get better. We're targeting and being intentional about changing instructional practice if we find something wrong with it. Provide opportunities for students to improve based on assessment results. So we're going to set up situations where students have additional opportunities to get the learning in a different way. Some additional ways to help teachers become involved in policy decisions around assessment is to have teacher representation on assessment committees. Ensure that teachers are a part of committees or groups that make decisions about assessment policies in schools or at the district level. This is a way to make sure that teachers' perspectives and classroom realities are considered in policy making, because sometimes when people get detached from the classroom, they do not have a realistic view of what assessment should look like. So involving a cadre of teachers will help. Also consider teacher-led policy proposals. Invite teachers to develop and propose new assessment policies or practices that they believe would benefit their students. This gives teachers a sense of ownership over the assessment process and reinforces their role as instructional leaders. Remember, principals and superintendents are not the only instructional leaders. Teachers should be treated as such. Feedback loops for policy evaluation are also important. Regularly seek input from teachers on the effectiveness of existing assessment policies and practices. This can lead to ongoing improvement and ensures that policies are responsive to the needs of both teachers and students. And though we said we should not use assessment for punitive use, there is a link to assessment to a professional growth goals. Encouraging teacher agency in assessment can also be linked to professional growth and career development. When teachers take control of their assessment practices, it can lead to new opportunities for leadership and professional development. And some ways to do that are create roles for teachers to become assessment leaders within the school, mentoring colleagues, leading assessment communities, and facilitating professional development on assessment practices. That is a way that I personally became an assessment leader. Action research on assessment is also a way to encourage teachers to engage, where they investigate the assessment practice they may have used in their own classroom to see if there were student learning benefits. And then they can share that data with their colleagues. That will enhance teacher agency and growth. And there is also an opportunity for teachers to pursue certification and advanced training in assessment literacy. This helps teachers deepen their expertise and positions them as leaders in the field of assessment.
In my second year of teaching, I saw teachers delivering lessons and carrying on conversations with kids like conductors in an orchestra. And when I found out that they were all national board certified teachers, I said, I want that too. So I was immediately embraced by a community composed of our country's most accomplished educators. I pursued my national board certification, and I learned that no teacher survives in isolation and thrives alone. In order to strengthen the teaching profession, we have to support and uplift the communities and organizations that make teachers strong. Teachers are driven by a powerful need to be better for the children we serve. That's why we pursue advanced degrees and certifications. During my Master of Arts in Teaching program, I began working with two students. One of them had dyslexia, and the other one had an emotional disturbance, had been identified in that way. I realized very quickly that I did not have the tools to support these kids the way they needed to be. So I already had one student loan going, so I said, rack it up. And I added a second master's degree program to my caseload, to my workload. I got a special education master's in education. And I recognize now that in order to increase the level of respect that people have for teachers, all we need to do is shine a spotlight on our best and brightest educators, elevating the excellence that America's teachers exemplify. Senators, there are teachers in your home states that are right now leading from their classrooms, and all you have to do is show the public the wonders that they are, and the hearts of even our harshest critics can be moved. You remember my mother, who did not want me to be a teacher. Just before she passed away, she left me this email. She said, "Hi, son, this is Omma. I just want to say I am so proud of you as a teacher. You're a great teacher. You're a wonderful son. I love you." I followed my heart into teaching, and my love for teaching won my mother's heart too. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for visiting our channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when there's new content. Also, like this video. It will push to other people who might have the same needs that you have. And also share it. You can share it via email with your colleagues, and it's free professional learning that everyone can have. I am so glad you visited, and remember to stay inspired.